Man said, oh, 4-0 Arsenal, it's only Wigan. Nah, this game was not about Wigan. This was about restoring some belief, some confidence, getting some feel-good factors back in there with the fans and the players alike ahead of a long journey as we reach the climax of the Premier League season, people. And also restoring some feel-good factors before some very serious games ahead of us. Every game is a cup final, as cliche as it is. We all know we've got Wolves midweek, we've got Spurs, we've obviously got Chelsea, and then I think we've got Brighton away. Our next two games are on the road, people. So it was a nice temporarily goodbye kind of thing at the Emirates, people. This period right here will define our season now. Obviously, like, make no mistakes, people. So today we're going to talk about potentially Eze refinding his confidence, why I want to see Saka played in midfield on certain occasions. And I believe, if we want to be winners, we need to be killers. And I think it's Bandulu season. So let's grow, man. Listen, the result is whatever. We're through to the next round of the FA Cup. We kept a clean sheet. We scored 4 goals and we suffered no injuries beyond Calafiori. Benjamin White has said he's all right, people. I like the energy. I like to see our attacking players and our fans just in general smiling. I like the movement. I like the confidence. I like the players taking risks. Obviously, there's a lot of factors to consider. We're dramatically a better side than Wigan with the greatest of respect, because although we beat them 4-0, I don't think like they looked mad terrible. We're just better than them, respectfully to them, people. This is a season where there's been periods where nobody's looked confident on a consistent basis where our attackers are concerned. And it didn't look like anyone at certain periods was going to reach double figures. Now, suddenly, you've got Jesus, you've got Noni, you've got Martinelli, you've got Eze, you've got several players starting to chip in. Football is about confidence and momentum beyond the obvious. And I want us to capitalize on such, people. Arsenal needed this reset before the real test begins once again. So it wasn't about dominating Wigan. It was about rebuilding and reinstalling confidence in our attack. Now, this is the one. For me personally, you lot know me. I like unpredictability, and there's going to be many twists and turns within these next 12 Premier League games that we have. Now, this is the one, as I said, Saka in midfield. I know some people won't like it. I'm not saying it will be long term. I'm just simply saying it will be a surprise weapon. There's a double-edged sword and a trade-off with everything. 90% of what we've been doing has got us to this stage. Great days out in Europe. Obviously, being a competent and one of the best teams in the Premier League, being difficult to play, you know what you're going to get. You give us set pieces, you're in trouble. We're going to overload you. But the same side of that coin does become a bit predictable. This is why I'm all for, at this point of the season, doing some illogical things that we wouldn't necessarily do. Primarily the Bandulu brothers, Kai Havertz and Gyökeres, that looked like that could be something for us. And I think we've got to play on this Bukayo Saka in midfield. Long term, he's a right winger, but he's done it before. It provides him with freedom and movement, and he's able to draw fouls. And I know Saka is a right winger and a bloody good one at that, but I don't think he's given his credit for his link-up play, his creativity, his final ball, his variety in his game, when to play short given goals, when to take the ball from the right-hand side, roll his man, either draw a foul or dispatch it to the left and make another run. These are things that could be spanners in the works for oppositions. And I know Wigan isn't the biggest of case studies, but I don't see why this couldn't work against Spurs in the North London derby, Chelsea, for example, or many others. It could be a surprise weapon. As I said, there's many Bandulu things we have to have. And off a side note, that's why I'm quite vexed around Kai Havertz and Mikel Marino's injury, because whether it's players or players' form, the players or the sentiments around certain players that divide Arsenal fans' opinions, it's them guys that make the difference. It's the players that now go into the purple patches. It's the Kai Havertz's and the Marinos who are injured. It's the Gyökeres finding his feet, the Eze finding his feet, alternating Saka's position. These are the things like that's going to get us over the line. We're 90% there. That 10% needs a bit of randomness, and again, as I said, when Saka's wide, he is doubled up against, and it does always feel like he's fighting a mad kind of battle. In midfield, he can pull defenders out of shape, especially when you've got Madueke, who is nowhere near Saka, but is a decent 1v1 player, does have a lot of pace. So teams have to think about those two things. And all it takes is one player to switch off. We create overloads. We saw certain moments, people. We saw him dragging defenders. We saw him and Madueke alternating the space and making over and underlaps. We saw the link-up play when he drifted to the left with Eze. This, in part, is how you can break down deep, mid, and low blocks, people. So I do want to see Saka playing that Odegaard role on the right hand side. I do want to see what he can do with Madueke there on a consistent basis. I do like how Eze is pulling the strings deeply, just for certain games, be unpredictable. That's how elite teams evolve, and that's how they don't stay static. For me, we're playing a 4-5-1, we're playing a compact unit, and we was able to find each other in the pockets, people. And again, Saka in that right centre mid role, man. He makes the underlap, inside, which obviously led to own goals, finding his form and scoring. But again, Saka, he's done it before. We've seen him play in central midfield for Arsenal. I'm not saying I want to see it on a consistent basis, folks, but for me, it's a thing where we need to do Bandulu stuff and bring some surprises in what's left of these 12 Premier League games and however much in all comps. Now, Saka, he's got great strength. He'll get onto the ball, he'll roll his man and he'll win fouls. Or, he can alternate between Noni and make runs on the outside. Or if we put him back in midfield, we can obviously find the likes of Eze, continue making runs, even drift to the left-hand side. Obviously, we know Eze is silky off his own back. And we know even Eze can move further forward and Lewis Skelly will step into midfield and our centre-backs will become a bit wider. And you've got Ben White on the overlap and you could have Noni obviously making certain runs. And then that frees up Saka and you've got Jesus and you've got Nelly. And you saw many a different combination throughout the game, people. And especially with Saka and the differences of spaces he can occupy, drawing fouls, drifting away from his position, picking up the ball in different areas while still maintaining the width. One thing that is going to be lost with Eze and Saka and this talking point and that talking point, we still held the width. Martinelli and Madueke did that very, very well, and we alternated between. And obviously, you had Eze picking the locks deeply in midfield. When it comes to Bukayo Saka, his presence alone in the centre of the pitch attracts a lot of attention from opposition players, and in this case, Wigan. And then that leaves Madueke 1v1 isolated against the defender with plenty of space between him and the touchline. While we've seen Bukayo Saka play there against Brighton and against Sheffield and actually Manchester City, and as much as I want it to be a tool, I must admit I'm very pessimistic as to whether, despite Mikel Arteta's comments about how he can play there and it gives food for thought, if we're going to see that on a consistent basis, people. Obviously, we've already got injuries. Arteta's system is well worked. He doesn't want to have more changing and moving parts. And when you do have Eze, Madueke, and Martinelli in the team too, against better sides, I don't think Saka is going to be moved inside because he carries a threat for the opposition. It could be an indication, however, that Mikel Arteta is considering all of the options at his disposal in a bid to get our attack finally clicking in these remaining 12 Premier League games and however much in all comps. A confident Eze is everything. A confident person, let alone in football, is everything. And we have to talk about Eze. So let's talk about Eze. 2 assists in 18 minutes against Wigan, an overall great performance across 90 minutes in that. Of course, when you talk about Eze, Bayern Munich comes to mind, Manchester City comes to mind, Wigan comes to mind, the hat-trick against Spurs comes to mind, especially in terms of a consistent performance. But it's been flashes of brilliance. You could also say Newcastle in terms of a performance across 90 minutes. But for whatever reason, whether it's Mikel Arteta, Eze, whatever reason, it's not quite worked out as good as it can. So again, confidence is needed. So my attackers are getting confidence by playing a good game, getting some assists, scoring goals, all that kind of stuff, people. So this is what I need for Eze to maintain that. We've been talking a lot about relationships. I do think Eze and Odegaard will be a great partnership in games to come, and it's a relationship we could play upon, people. But most importantly, away from his assists, particularly in that 18-minute period, people, it's his overall performance. He looked free. He looked free in his movement. He looked free within the system, and there was freedom within a framework. He looked free within the mind. He looked like he was enjoying it, people. And we all know Eze is technically a fantastic footballer. We just want to see it on a more consistent basis. Again, not all of it is all his fault, but some of it is. At points this season, he's looked devoid of confidence, looked very tense, and obviously he's been hooked in games. In the Premier League, what's that? No goals or assists in 15, 16 games, people. This game gave him freedom to float. I do think one underrated aspect of Eze being in an Arsenal shirt is him receiving the ball in deeper positions, even though you want to see him in the opposition area getting goals and assists. And I badly wanted him to crown off his performance against Wigan with a goal, but it wasn't meant to be. This game gave him freedom to float, dropping deep, taking the ball from the defenders, gliding passes, man, silking passes, making great runs and driving forward. This is what Arsenal need, people. Not just from Eze, but from everyone, man. And again, he was someone who was connecting the midfield and attack. Against Wigan, I do think he had a lot of space, but then also not space in terms of a deeper mid block. Against Wolves, against Spurs, against Chelsea, that may or may not potentially be the case, people. Confidence changes everything. And if Eze gets into rhythm now, Arsenal's attack could become a bit more unpredictable. It's Bandulu season. This is the Bandulu part of the season. If we want to be winners, we need to become killers. You lot know me on this platform, unless it's warranted, dependent on the periods of the season or the sentiment around the club. I'm not a fan of the culture of being ultra positive without basis, and likewise being ultra negative without basis, people. We judge based on periods, we audit results, and we take the good and make it great, and we address the evident areas of improvement. But this period that we're in now, it's results business. You know, I'm not necessarily convinced with certain players in our side. I don't necessarily think a lot of our players should be in an Arsenal team, but we've got tools in a toolbox. Anybody that's going through a purple patch, any little quirks to the system that can get us over the line and be unpredictable, I'm for it. Like with Gyökeres finding his feet, and prior to his injury, Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz and Marino, they're the Bandulu brothers or the kings of it. So I'm a bit vexed with them being injured. But if we need to play on Eze playing deeper, if we need to play on whoever at left back, if Saka playing right centre mid in the Odegaard role, especially because of Odegaard's fitness, let alone his consistency this season, then I'm all for it, people. It doesn't have to be pretty. We just need to get over the line, people. This is where killers separate themselves. We need our attackers to finish games. We need to go up to higher levels defensively. Attack is not just on our attackers. Defense is not just on our defenders. We're a unit. Our first attacker is our goalie. Our first defender is whoever's up front. You know, we need to start finishing games and going up the gears, people. No more comfort. No more controlling games for 70, 90 minutes and then nerves. No more of these shoddy kind of first halves and then a great period in the second, and it's neither here nor there. This is the Bandulu part of the season. In fact, it's Bandulu season. We need Martinelli to keep finishing. We need Gyökeres to keep doing what he's doing. We need Eze to take this Wigan game and lay down a marker. We need Gabriel Jesus to chip in. We need Noni to, you know, it might not be pretty, but that's 2 goals in 2 games. You get where I'm going. The world doesn't care that we've on a trophy drought or Premier League drought in 20 odd years. That, you know, since winning the FA Cup, we haven't won a trophy in X amount of years. The world don't care about any injury suffered to Benjamin White, about Calafiori, about Odegaard, about Marino, so on and so forth. Elite managers, elite players, elite teams, people with elite mindsets. They adapt. They don't make excuses. So let's get over the line. We got to talk about Martinelli. I mean, the man's an enigma. Low key, he's having a great goal scoring season in all competitions, and he's displaying himself as a cup specialist. He's doing it in the Champs, doing it in the FA Cup, done it in the League Cup. Premier League, it's not quite happening. I mean, he's got 10 goals in cups and, you know, in all comps. Apologies, people. First Arsenal player since Ian Wright to do that at this stage, which obviously he's no Ian Wright, but that's a good bit of statistics. Now, when you look beneath the numbers and you look at the Premier League, he's only got 1 Premier League goal, which Martinelli has to answer that. Is it all on Martinelli? A lot of it. Is it on maybe Mikel Arteta in the attack? Probably, because the numbers for all our players in totality in the Premier League isn't quite there. And has simply put, Martinelli just, you know, we've been in this period for a number of years. Is it a bit of everything? I don't know. While he's able to, in the cups, remember he's Brazilian, play with intention and invention, play with a little spark. I don't know, people. I really don't know. But shout out to Martinelli, man. You give him space, he's going to do damage. In low blocks, he's in problems. And, you know, in the cup games, he starts and does quite well. This season, he's been a super sub or been great in patches and things. We already know the next level for Martinelli is consistency, but we have been saying that for years. If he, in his own part, could unlock that, he does his own part to make Arsenal's attack more dangerous in all competitions and just make us a better side. We also have to big up Norgard, won the man of the match, you know, should probably get more minutes, did quite well. Great assist for Gabriel Jesus, and his passing just generally on top of everything he did was amazing. Big up Kepa for his support for Tommy Setford when Setford obviously made his home debut in the FA Cup. So a large up Kepa. He also made an important save in the 17th minute. And again, Mascara, he's just a boss in it. 13 million quid. It's robbery. And then obviously, folks, watching the game again, clean sheet, 4 goals, great individual performances, collectiveness, young players getting minutes off the bench through to the next round. You know, it instills a bit of confidence, as I've said numerous times. going into, you know, the games we've got to come, people. I do think, you know, we took our foot off the gas in the second half. We did have numerous chances we could have scored more, and, you know, lovely to see Martinelli trying to find Gyökeres. That's something we've become accustomed to. Eze had a number of chances. Jesus doing the jinky majinky. Saka was unlucky in his 45 minutes not to score. So we could have scored more. We potentially took our foot off the gas, but no real complaints. I do have questions to ask you lot, though. Let me know. Do you think Eze has found his confidence? Do you want to see Saka in midfield? Who do you believe steps up in this kind of period? Because if Arsenal can get through this, boy, we're laughing. Again, this is a title challenge, and now we forget about the FA Cup. We now get back into Premier League mode. First off is Wolves, then it's the North London Derby, then it's Chelsea, then it's Brighton. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Let's go.